What's going on, and welcome back to another episode of the Creative Digest, where we sit down and talk with other creators and creatives and talk about their processes and their experiences. Today's a really special one. Today, can we say this episode is brought to you by?
Sure. I think we can.
This episode is brought to you by Renewal Rain, and my long-term acquaintance. We've known of each other for a really long time. Everyone, this is Aaron.
Nice to meet you.
So Aaron is a creator, an entrepreneur, a lover of the Lord. He is. I should have started with that. You're a lover of the Lord first, right?
Yeah.
My bad, guys. But he's also the newly found owner of a brand new Columbus-based water company, Renewal Rain.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for this, first of all. This is our first podcast that we're getting out there, and the goal is to hopefully get on more and talk about the water, but not only the water, talk about the goal of bringing people back into the invitation of accepting Christ. And we'll dive into the weeds on that. But yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm super excited. So for me to catch up over because it's been quite some time since we've interacted, right? I mean, you were saying USOM, so it's a completely different branded school now.
Yeah.
But with that being said, where did the inspiration behind maybe Renewal Rain come from? But also, where did that entrepreneurial mindset come from? Where did the drive to do something like start a business? I mean, there's a message here, but you could just do something like go do street ministry, go do just a faith-based podcast. But you saw that there's a message in a product.
Yeah.
And so where did that come from?
I'll start a little bit backwards. So, where I think the drive was definitely always there, young. I mean, I remember at 8 years old writing a big check on a piece of cardboard that I cut and made into a check, drew the lines and the bank and everything, and writing out $10 million. But that wasn't a check that I had written out to myself to receive $10 million. It was a check that I was giving away to people. And I remember as a kid always thinking about Bruce Wayne and other billionaires who gave their money away, gave to the orphans, gave to the poor. And it's not about being a superhero.
It's about being Batman. No. You said it. You heard it here first, Bryce. It's easier to be Batman.
It seems that way. Yeah. It seems that way until you realize his troubles. But so as I grew up, I kind of always tried to sell things, whether it be candy at school or, gum, buying it at Sam's Club and then flipping pieces of gum for $1 or whatever the case may be, but always just trying something because I felt like within me there was a purpose to create and provide value to this earth. And I could not escape the wanting and the desire to provide value. And that's really where it came down to, is how can I provide value in this earth for other people to receive something and feel good? And so, long story short, worked a bunch of jobs, bunch of sales jobs, of course, because that's, entrepreneurship is basically sales. And sales, marketing, cars, whatever, I jumped into, but it was all for the experience. And last year, got an opportunity to work with a buddy of mine, Waylon Artrip, and he owns an insurance company called United Insurance Professionals, and we did some work together. We collaborated, and I became his marketing director. And so we began to grow from there. And one day on the way to the gym, we were talking about the Liquid Death commercial and how they had witchcraft, and they were performing witchcraft on the cans, and in small print it said, "This is real witchcraft." And normally you would see something saying, "This is a paid actor. This is not real witchcraft." Right. And so because of that, I don't know what it was, man. There was this weird fire of why are Christians not allowed in the marketplace?
Right.
I found that very weird. And so I asked my buddy on the way to the gym, I said, Waylon, it's odd that, these believers aren't putting their resources where they should.
Right.
And, it's odd to me that we can't all come together as Christians to, let's say, put our money towards a cause and start speaking with our wallet to change these communities. And so I looked at him and we talked about it, went to the gym, came back, and I guess during the set we were both thinking about it, because when we came back in the car, we looked at each other and said, let's do it. And so, I told him, I was like, man, this is going to cost us a lot of money, because we didn't want to do it with investors early,
right,
for them to steal the idea or change the actual purpose of the idea. And so we just said, yeah, man, we're going to come out of pocket on this one. So that's what we've done. And, it's been fruitful so far. But yeah, man, I think the drive for entrepreneurship has always been there.
Yeah.
I believe it's a God-given gift. And I think that any, Christian or believer that's out there that feels like they have a gift of entrepreneurship should tap into it, because there needs to be believers in the marketplace using their money to make change inside of these communities. And that's kind of where the thought process comes from. And that's where Renewal Rain was born from.
Dude, that's really cool. I think that's a really cool story. And I'm glad that we're able to capture that story and potentially put that out there. What I love that you said, and I have people like my mother, she owns a restaurant, and I see that vision, right? And she's not everybody that comes into a restaurant is there to get a message or whatever. Like, that's not her goal, but like her goal is just to spread whatever the I guess maybe you can say like the love of Jesus Christ, right? Mm-hmm. Like, is just constantly serving with that love, of creating with that love, of praying over the business, of like knowing that when people come into this place, like, this is a safe space. This is a place where, and so I think I see that vision, right? Like, this is something that when you look at Renewal Rain on the shelves, right? Like, when it hits the stores type deal, it's going to be something that maybe, like, I mean, I'm not saying people are going to sit there and fall out in the Holy Spirit when they grab the can or whatever, but it's just delivering that message, maybe that message of hope, right? Like, I mean, sometimes it's just so hopeless, right? Like, especially in the world we live in today, it's just, and then you have products and brands that are just trying to reinforce hopelessness. And Christian brand or not, that just feels dark, right? Like, it's just like, what are we accomplishing by leaning into the darkness of a product?
All right.
And so having a product like this that leans into the light of a product, and the amount of times that I've had one of these cans in my hand just from that one case, and people, oh, what is that? Oh, what are you drinking? And I'm like, oh, it's a faith-based company based here in Columbus, Ohio, that has a mission, that has a vision, and also it's really good. Yeah. If you're not keen, it's really good.
Yeah.
So midpoint ad here, where can people get the product?
Yeah, so you guys can find us currently only online at renewalrain.com, but we do have one store. The reason why I don't mention this store and I say only online is because it's very hard to get to. It's in Laurelville, Ohio, and it's called the Young's Family Store, or Young's Family Grocery, Family Market, or something like that. But they
hold it.
They hold it.
Cool.
And they received a pallet, which was about 400 cases.
Holy
so
crap.
they've got a lot there.
So did they buy that up front?
They did.
They buy it up front, and then they just take whatever profit.
Yeah. So they bought that from us before it came off of the production line.
Wow.
So that was our first grocery store. Now I will say this.
Yeah.
We do know the family grocers that own the store, but
hey,
we're in a grocery store. We're in a grocery store in Southern Ohio.
You're on shelves.
And so that is a win still.
Yeah.
But right now the goal obviously is to get into more retail, but currently only online.
Well, and I don't want to devalue just the fact that you're on shelves. Like, I know you said, like, we know the people, but also, like, that's the point of networking and connections.
True.
Right?
True.
Like, the point of, like, half of the jobs I have, like, that would be like if I said, well, I only work at the Crew because I knew the director. It's like, you know the director. That's why you work at the Crew. Like, you know what I mean? So you're on shelves because you know the guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge.
Appreciate that.
And so when you say bring value to the marketplace, what does that look like from a Renewal Rain perspective? In maybe we talk in the next year. What does that value look like for the next year? And then what does that value look like long-term wise? What's the longevity?
So within the next year, actually currently, we are building relationships with nonprofits, local nonprofits, as well as nonprofits that are around the United States in general, focused mainly on rehabilitation of families, men, women, drug rehabilitation, of course, but mainly our goal is to help nonprofits that are aiming towards rebuilding the family structure. Awesome. And bringing fathers and mothers back together and back home with the children so that there is a full and whole house rather than a broken one. So that's the And what we're going to do with them is eventually, not yet, but eventually on the website, we're going to allow 5 nonprofits there to essentially compete for donations. And a part of each can sold will go to a bank that's going to be set up for the winner of the voting system at the end of the year when we do a party and everything like that. So essentially, you as the consumer will have a can, go to the website. You have 3 votes that you can use for 5 different nonprofits. You choose which one you want to win the money at the end. Yeah. And it's a way to obviously keep people purchasing the cans, but then also to be involved in the change in what is happening.
Where's this money going? Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's just a small bit of it. But we intend to take our profits and actually use them for community redevelopment. So what that looks like is maybe buying a church to start revival nights in maybe a younger part of town or something like that. But then not just that, buying a school to educate parents financially, teach them about credit, teach them about anger management, and get them help so that they can be better parents.
Practical.
Yeah, very practical things.
Renewing.
And this we don't need to do as a nonprofit.
Right.
That's the beauty about bringing value to the marketplace is we can take the revenue that we make and pour right back in.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between a man who has $100 and takes $1 for himself to give away $9 versus a company that has, let's say, $1 million, keeps $10,000 for itself or $100,000 for itself, gives away the other $900,000.
Right.
There is no difference.
Right.
It's just more zeros, really.
There's more zeros on the back end of it. I think that's really cool. And so is the goal, the mission, the vision to start that in Columbus? Is that a Columbus goal, or is there another city that you kind of have your heart set on?
Initially, we want to start with Columbus. Honestly, I can't really say just Columbus. We would like to start in Ohio in general.
Right.
We would like to target Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland for our partnerships and where we do stuff, just because obviously they're the 3 main C's in the state. Right. But also, too, that's where a lot of the heavy traffic is of burdened people. The more you start to go out, sure, you start to get people with more wealth, and then people kind of hiding a little bit, right, in the
But when you have higher populations of
areas,
people, you're just going to have more kinds of people.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just more opportunities.
And so that's really the goal. The goal there is just to start in Ohio and branch out as much as we can.
Well, that's super cool. Yeah. With whatever help I can be from a Cincinnati perspective, I don't know how keen you are with the Cincinnati folks, but I did my undergrad at the University of Cincinnati. Nice. And so a lot of that community. And when I tell you, like, it's just another dark place. Yeah. Like, and I've talked to a few people about this, and like I remember like being at school, and don't get me wrong, I love college, love the people I met there and the community that I was able to build and be a part of. But to say it was work is a severe understatement, right? Sure. Because going into places that, like, let's say the University of Cincinnati, where somebody who is a believer is the bad guy. Yep. I was wrong to them, right? Yeah. Which, like, from a perspective, I don't want to blame perspective. I just want to, let's have a conversation about your perspective, and let's approach that, and because I want to tell you about the hope that I have, right? I'm not here to whatever you. Yeah. What I am here to do is be like, hey, there's an option of life, and I want you to choose that. And there was a lot of criticism. Sure. There's a lot of pushback. And so do you see some of that pushback in Renewal Rain? What's the criticism look like?
Man, this one actually is really exciting to me. Okay. Because it opens up the opportunity to have a conversation. But yes, the pushback has been something pretty interesting. And of course, right, the can was very much inspired by another brand, which I cannot say right now. But
can I say it?
Yeah, you can.
Liquid Death.
And so we did it in the sense of a more parody style, which is why we kind of went that route. It's more of kind of...
Jesus looks baller.
Yeah, and they got the skull going up, so we decided to have Jesus going up because the idea was if you turn the can, the symbolic hope is that the Holy Spirit is going within you. Yeah. Okay. Much like the potential on the other end could be.
Oh, I get the gesture.
Yeah.
So if I'm drinking it,
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah,
right.
right.
The artistic goal, at least. But the pushback, actually, Christians are receiving this pretty well.
Yeah, right.
Believers across the board, Catholic, non-denominational, Orthodox, it doesn't matter. They're receiving it really well. But who's not receiving it well, which is no surprise here, are people who don't actually believe in Jesus.
Right.
And people who don't actually believe in what we believe in, which I find very interesting that non-Christians are trying to tell Christians what is or isn't or how to behave. So that's been quite the interesting analysis, I would say, on our end, is that I think that this has opened up my eyes to showing me that a lot of Christianity has gotten soft.
Sure.
And they've allowed themselves to be bullied by those types of individuals to be backed into a corner in the name of meekness.
Right.
Which that wouldn't be the case at all. And so we are setting up our brand to be somewhat sarcastic.
Which is fun.
But also to get to the point.
Right.
And we're interested in having a conversation, sure, but let's make sure that it's fruitful.
Yeah.
And then also too, let's make sure that we point out what is the actual issue here.
Right.
And so, yeah, we've gotten some pushback. That's what the pushback looks like. It's definitely from the people who aren't Christian who have the most to say. But again, the Christian community loves this, and that was kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Yes, we want to get the gospel out there to people and reach people, but the main goal is what does it look like when the body actually comes together with their finances for something to be able to do that change.
And I love that. I think I love that goal. I love that objective. Because like obviously you'll be able to get people on board just by the brand, the vision,
sure,
right? As far as what the can says.
Mm-hmm.
But I think really where you're going to get people on board is what's the mission?
Yeah.
And the mission isn't to get a bunch of people to show up to a church on Sunday.
Right.
The mission is renewing, restoring communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's powerful. Like nobody should be against that. Like to me, that's objectively a good goal.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people outside of the church are like anti this whole, well, don't cram your beliefs down my throat. I'm like, we're not.
Yeah.
Well, you might be here, literally, in a literal sense. But like the actual goal, the objective, right, is one, we're going to take ourselves lightheartedly.
Yeah.
But we're serious about creating change in a community. And so does getting plugged in to a community in a sense of like becoming a staple of hope, of change, of whatever word you want to put in front of that, of becoming like, oh, that Renewal Rain, they're people that we can rely on, that we can count on. Is it like, do you foresee challenges in that as far as like connecting with these nonprofits, or do you already have these connections with said nonprofits?
Well, some of them are already starting to develop.
Okay.
And I do see it being a challenge only because a lot of nonprofits are for everyone.
Right.
And what their beliefs are and what they, they're doing good, but their beliefs necessarily don't align with ours.
Sure.
And so that is where the difficulty will lie, because yes, they're nonprofits, but unfortunately, we have to do work where our beliefs are, and hold to that unless it's change from, let's say, something we don't believe in to becoming a better person and actually renewing you towards hope and stuff like that. So that's something completely different. But yeah, there will be some challenges, but I think it'll be pretty easy with the nonprofits, to be honest, because we're about help and they're about change. And yeah, again, there's a cost associated with us, but the nonprofits have a lot of money to spend. So they'll be okay. But yeah, did that answer your question?
It did. Yeah, I think it did. And so with the, and I don't want to like sit here and highlight this nonprofit, but they're really, really great. Are you keen on My Village Ministries?
I've heard of My Village, yeah.
The only reason I'm like have the association and I make the connection is because the Potter's House has a really deep rooted connection with My Village Ministries. Yep. And the folks actually that like run it, they come and do a lot of product placement with us, or as far as like we push content for them. Mm-hmm. But they're really great, right? Yeah. Holistic families, right? So everything that you were describing about like bringing the families back together, not allowing kids to fall into the foster care system, right? Yeah. Knowing that the foster care system, though important, is broken, right? And it has all of its flaws, just like a lot of things do. But when you have a government ran system that doesn't have Christ in the center of it, it's obviously going to have flaws.
Yeah.
And so it allows kids to not fall into the foster care system, and then bringing families together, holistic families, and knowing that is the call of the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is to undefiled religion is caring for the orphan and the widow, right? Like that to me is what I see happening here, right? On a deeper level. And because I wake up in the morning, I'm tossing this in the backpack, and I'm drinking this, but I think on a deeper level, there's a goal and there's an objective happening. So you have a launch party coming up soon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this true? When is it? This September
1st.
Okay,
yes.
so that's next week.
Yeah.
All right, so this podcast needs to come out quick. So that is this an open invite? Can we extend?
Anybody can come. I mean, it does cost.
It does cost, right? But
it's $50. But you can check us out on Eventbrite. If you type in just Renewal Rain, it should pop up.
Cool.
But
also, the link will be in the description of both the show notes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as you can go to the YouTube description. So
wonderful. I was going to say that next. Give that to you. So yeah, and it's open to anybody who wants to come. Cool. The objective is actually not about the water. It's we're going to talk about the water very briefly. And it's going to be around, don't get me wrong, but we're going to have nonprofits there to solicit for volunteers or donations and talk about their causes. Wow. We're going to have a pastor or two come up and speak some inspirational words over the city, the state, and the country. And then also pray for the water and the people that come in contact with the water. The whole goal is to have a worship group, which is why I had asked about that.
Yeah. Did he get back to you?
Yeah.
Oh,
and so
good.
we're working through that. But have a worship team come out so that during dinner we can have actual worship going on.
Yeah.
And then we're working on it right now, locking in our hip hop artists to come and perform and finish it all out. So, but really the main goal, if you heard any of that, was to give God the glory throughout what we're doing. And so, yes, this is a water company, and yes, whatever, it's going to make money, blah, 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 blah. But the main part is, of course, bringing everybody's hearts and minds back to Christ. And so that's what the launch party really is about. It's more of like prayer and just putting prayer into the company so that it can go far.
Right. Okay, because, that should be like the core 4 values, right? Is prayer, people, product in this situation, right? I'm going to crack this one open. 1, because I'm parched. 2, I want you to. So I heard that your father used to do drink companies. Is this true? Did your father have a drink?
My father did not have a drink per se, but my father has tried quite a bit in his own entrepreneurial endeavors, and has done really well. Currently, my dad actually owns a scooter business in Boston.
Cool.
And has them all across Boston, the campuses, UConn, University of Massachusetts.
So like a Lime type situation.
Yeah. Essentially that. And that he's doing really well on that. But I think where you're hearing that from is an individual that helped us that came out of nowhere. And he is named Steve Fader. Love that guy forever.
Okay.
Steve Fader is a Canadian who
those Canadians
got a hold of us because the company that we were using to package our water and distribute our water is called Wildpack.
Okay.
And he is the number 1 shareholder of Wildpack.
Got it.
He heard about our can, saw our design, and decided to jump on our meeting with the account executive that we have. And that was also out of the normal. That's typically not what happens. The number 1 shareholder doesn't ever jump on meetings because they don't even work in the company. And so he jumped in and very quickly let us know that he is not a believer, but let us know that he believes in what we're doing.
Cool.
And he decided so he built a CBD beverage company in Canada and sold that for a few $100 million.
Cool. Go that guy.
And that guy is now helping us for free with he gives us all our connections. Any distributors that we want to get into retail with, he gave us all the email names for those, and pretty much he gave us his entire address book for people. And
it's so valuable.
Extremely valuable. And that's why I say Steve Fader, I love that guy, because he helped us go from absolutely not knowing where to go and where to start to now having the product and earlier than what it should have been.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of people who are who listen to this podcast who when you're a podcast listener, you listen to a bunch of other podcasts, right?
Sure.
Me, I have like my repertoire of creative podcasts. And this is a creative podcast. I think a lot of what we're talking about it requires a lot of creativity. I think entrepreneurship requires, dear Lord, the bubbles are getting to me, the most amount of creativity, right?
Sure.
Like artists and painters and photographers and videographers, whatever, like those are creatives, yes. But to me, entrepreneurs are kind of at the top of that list, right? The innovation behind creating a product, I think, number one. Mm-hmm. But even maybe not just a product, but a business, right? You have to sell it. You have to come up with creative marketing strategies. You have to get creative on how you're pitching your numbers. You have to get creative.
Yeah.
And so where do you see creativity maybe thriving the most within a business? And it doesn't just have to be your company, but we can use that as an example.
Well, the easy answer is the most creativity comes from the marketing department. Right. But I think that the actual creativity comes from the people that have locked themselves in with the mission and purpose of whatever company it is. Because if you can tie yourself to, we'll use Renewal Rain for this example, but if we hire somebody and they can tie themselves to the vision of what we're going for,
right,
their ideas are going to be fresher. Their thoughts are going to be about the company. They're passionate. They're excited.
Yeah.
And because their focus is on it, intrinsically they're going to start having these creative waves about that thing because they're passionate about it.
Right.
And so I think that's probably the short answer, is that it's definitely coming from people who have a passion for what they're doing. Because you cannot be creative about something you don't care about.
Right.
It's very difficult to do.
100%.
Even as a painter or somebody who draws, or even cinematography, if you are not passionate about what you're doing, it is very difficult even to get those angles, the proper angles and stuff.
You just don't see it.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense to you.
Exactly.
Right.
And so if you can lock in with the passion and purpose of whatever project that you're working on, that's when I think creativity flows. Clip
that. That's really good. Write that down. So outside of the water, outside of the brand, what do you get into? What fuels?
I mean, honestly, bro, I'm pretty boring. So, my regular, of course, day to day, Monday through Friday, is making connections, phone calls, the regular stuff
work.
Just work stuff. And then afterwards, I typically play about like one game, two maybe, if my friends want to play, but typically one game of like college football or Madden.
Yeah, NCAA is where it's at right now, man.
It is pretty fun. The tackling sucks.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll probably play about one or two of those a night, same way as everybody else, and then wind down with probably chilling in the hot tub and then just relax from there, prayer, and then go to bed really. But then on the weekends, and even some days throughout the week, I spend time with my wife, and we focus on praying for our family that we're creating, and also too, she is my assistant, so we handle work stuff as well, and anything else that I missed, just running that by her, making sure that everything gets buttoned up at the end of the day.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So do you find complications when starting a business with people you're acquainted to?
Are you talking about like
in this situation, your wife?
Yeah.
Like, is there do you find like sticking points or whatever from a business perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to get into your personal life.
Sure.
From a business perspective, do you find a lot of that, like maybe you're compromising in places you wouldn't particularly compromise on a normal day? You know what I mean? Like, does some of that personal relationship start floating over into the business?
Well, I think that actually the business side of things helps our personal relationship a bit. Obviously, I can't speak for everybody. This is just how we work, but it allows her to know, like, hey, I'm extremely busy, and she can see it and sees my schedule, sees the calendar, sees how busy I am. So it also gives her an opportunity to do what she likes to do and helping me and being a good wife and fill those spots that may, again, fall through the cracks. But yeah, some stuff does get missed in the personal sense. Like, Sure, some days probably could I love a little bit more? Absolutely. Sure, some days could I have been a little bit more present in a conversation? Yeah, absolutely. The way that I look at it, however, and the way that we look at it actually is this is just for right now. This isn't going to be like this forever.
Right.
And this is only, as an entrepreneur, when you start, it's always, busy, 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 busy. But the more income you make, the more you can delegate, and the more delegation you do, the more you free up your time.
Right.
And so that's the next step of where we're going, is focusing on how can I delegate to take some responsibility off.
Right.
And then we can focus on our family and move from there. But I think that as long as you're prepared, or attempt to be prepared, that some of the bad things that come with being an entrepreneur and trying to balance relationships are mitigated.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, that's a great answer. You've given some really political answers, and I love it. I mean, sometimes I have people on this podcast, and which love all of my guests, but sometimes they'll just like give the most wild answers. I'm like, maybe I should have prepped you with some of these questions ahead of time.
Sure.
But it's totally okay. I mean, I think some of the raw and authenticness of a conversation is great.
Yeah.
I know a lot of podcasts, they do like bullet points, or even some moments are like quote unquote scripted, right?
Yeah.
Like you would be very aware of what we're about to talk about ahead of time. And obviously, like, I don't want you to feel like you're thrown to the wolves or whatever. Sure. But I think a lot of the raw authenticness of a conversation, and just like the fact that we're sitting on my couch here, you know what I mean? Like, we're just chopping it up, because I just want people to feel like they can, they're right there. They're just sitting in the conversation, being a part of it. For those listening, I pointed at the camera. I just realized they're not right there.
But they're right here.
But they're right here. Right here. They're in my heart.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're not. You're not that special. But hey, thanks for following the Creative Digest. You seem like you got the whole fashion thing going for you, though. I mean, you say you're pretty boring. I mean, this is a tough fit.
My wife dresses me, man.
Okay. Got it.
I ask her what looks good in the morning and go from there.
Word.
Yeah.
Are you originally from Cleveland? Am I tripping there?
Yeah. I'm from Cleveland.
What part of Cleveland? Like inner city or?
Yeah. So I was just born in Cleveland, and then we grew up on a street called Bosworth. And then for high school, we just moved outside of Cleveland to a suburb called Brooklyn. Cool. Real small, kind of like a blink.
Dude's from Brooklyn.
Well, yeah, but not that Brooklyn.
Yeah, I know. But hey, we could say you're from Brooklyn. Did you a big Browns fan?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't watch sports much at all. I only play the game with my guys, like, just because they like it.
Right. No, I hear that.
But yeah, I don't watch sports at all. No shade to anybody that does. Right. They are very fun. I'm not gonna go on a Tate spiel and say that sports are for slaves or the slave minded or anything like that. I'm not gonna say that. But what I just find other ways to use my time.
I'm gonna clip that out. Just that moment. just you saying that moment. No, I hear that. I do love soccer. Obviously, like, working for people like the Columbus Crew helps.
Yeah.
I'm a big soccer fan.
Soccer is pretty cool. I used to think it was a weak sport, just as much Americans, growing up in high school, because it was always football, basketball, wrestling.
Right.
But I always in the back of my head was like, man, I kind of want to play soccer.
Yeah, it's fire.
I kind of want to play soccer, but then always had to be like, nah, it's whack.
Yeah. I can't do that. That's weird.
Can't do that. But no, it actually looks pretty fun, and those guys seem in way more shape.
They're in incredible shape. I looked it up the other day, and it, like, they run between 3.5 to 4.5 miles every game.
Yeah, that's insane.
Game. That's insane to me. And sometimes
insane.
So you're running a 5K multiple times a week.
Yeah.
Like, talk about being in shape.
Yeah.
Like,
and some of them, they're sprinting.
They're sprinting, and they have to, like, kick the ball, and they have to, like, you know what I mean? And then also, like, play strategy and, like,
look out for, I don't know the positions, but look out for that guy over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think there's a lot of talent behind a soccer. There's also a lot of talent behind, like, football.
Sure.
But for me, I've been to a Browns game. I've been on the field for a Browns game.
Yeah.
I've been on the field for a Crew game. There's a quarter of the amount of fans at a Crew game, and yet it's louder, more energetic, more exciting, constant action.
I will say, I think that soccer has a more loyal loyal fan base.
Yeah. There's no casual fans of soccer.
It doesn't seem that way.
Right.
No.
There's less fans.
Yeah.
There's less fans. They're not casual.
No,
they're
extreme.
diehard fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I would say I am a casual Bengals fan.
Okay.
I root for the Bengals.
Sure.
I'm a Bengals fan.
Yeah.
Right? Joe Burrow is my guy. But I'm casual. I'm not going to the game. I'm not buying jerseys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know the one chant, right, for
Yeah.
when we score a touchdown. But that's it, right? I'll become a diehard when they make it to the Super Bowl again.
There you
That's
go.
when I'll become a diehard. But outside of that, it's not really my shtick, my fortois, if you will.
Sure.
That's my piece on sports. That's sports with Ashton. So do you have any cool shows coming up? Are you doing any more of these with some other folks around town, or?
Not around town, but we are going to be on. We have a podcast coming up in October. We're going to be shooting for it October 5th. And that is going to be with the Christian Channel,
Cool.
also known as Christian Channel Studios. They make movies with Angel Studios,
Got it.
which if
they're
anybody
massive.
doesn't know, the Christian Netflix, basically. Yeah, and they reached out to us to get us on that podcast, and now they're going to be helping us with a lot of our celebrity minglings.
Cool.
Just to give a small example, because there's not much I can say, but they are going to be putting our ad read on their new podcast coming up with Rob Snyder, Michael Francis, and
Holy cow.
Joe Montana, and then they're also going to be putting us on the one that they have with Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow.
And the Mel Gibson one, we're asking if he can do the ad read.
Whoa.
So fingers crossed on that
Whoa.
one. Fingers crossed that we can get that one. But
Yeah, that's tough though.
and that group right there is also going to help us get involved with people like Chris Pratt, Mark Wahlberg, a couple of the other celebrities that have gone
People
Christian.
who are faith-based
Yeah.
celebrities. Wow.
Yeah.
So, do you think? And we'll start landing the plane here. Do you think having maybe your own podcast, right, or the Renewal Rain podcast, or something of the sorts, would allow you to bring on, you know what I mean, bring your
Yeah.
own celebrities in, or do you think maybe the goal, the vision, is just like get your drink onto some of these other celebrity shows, let them do all of the talking and whatever, but then like your brand is just there? Like, have you thought into that? Like, as far as, do you want it to be your stuff, or?
Yeah, we have actually thought into that, and we want both.
Okay.
Of course, we want product placement everywhere. Like
Right.
you see Celsius everywhere.
Right, Celsius is everywhere.
On
You should
everybody's
take George
podcast.
Janko.
That's our next goal. That's why
You should take the George Janko show.
we're in cahoots with Bryce, and so
Yeah.
we're working on getting into George next. But there's a couple of manager hoops that we got to jump through.
Right, George Janko. But I mean, I feel like you could get pretty connected. I feel like
It'd be pretty easy.
you're in. Well, obviously Bryce, but
Sure.
like if you could get in through somebody like he just had Brandon Lake on,
Mm-hmm.
get in through him, which I know getting to him is hard,
Yeah.
but he has a lot of leeway.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also Celsius pays a lot of money.
They do pay
to
a
be
lot
on
of
it-
money.
to be on his show.
And we beat out Bryce, so we're pretty confident. We beat out for Bryce. So Celsius was going to go to Bryce.
Celsius was going to go to Bryce.
Yes, and so we decided to work with them, and then Celsius was also going to the Christian Channel, and the Christian Channel reached out to us
So we
and
prefer to have.
put Celsius on the back burner for us, and
That's
they're
awesome.
taking it at a lesser rate.
Yeah.
So that's a blessing in itself. But also too, to come back to your question, we did want to do, and we do have a YouTube channel with no videos on it. But we do want to do, I don't know about a podcast, but some form of video content, because what we would like to do is people come back to the YouTube channel to actually receive the word. So whether it's, having guest pastors come and maybe read a verse of the Bible and expound on it in the language,
yeah.
whether it be Greek or Hebrew, or actually have lessons about what is the Bible saying. That's kind of the goal and where we're coming from, kind of like the Bible Project, but in real life,
Yeah.
and not animated. So that is a thought, and that's kind of in the wheel, the rat wheel going up there, but just an idea for now.
Well, dude, that's sick. I'm super stoked. So do you have any closing thoughts, any final remarks for us?
Yeah, if you are listening to this and you are scared of pursuing what you have on your heart, I encourage you to dive into fear, because as soon as you do, all of it disappears. And that is the craziest thing that can be said, because, how are you in the midst of the tornado, right? But the eye is the safest place of the tornado. And so the coolest thing about, stepping into what you believe that God has on your heart is once you do it, everything becomes easy, only because you have faith in the Lord and you don't know where anything is going to happen or money's going to come from or what connections you're going to make or anything. But next thing you know, they're at your door and they're always there. And that is, I think, the beautiful,
isn't that what's special
part
about faith, man? You know what I mean? Like that's like that's the great part about faith, is that I don't know what it looks like.
Sure.
I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of it really is not what can I do to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's how much do I trust God to just fall?
Yeah.
Right? You said dive into faith, fall into faith, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, how much do I trust him to just let go?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the reason it's so terrifying is because, no, you can't do it.
Correct.
You cannot.
Yeah.
He can.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore trust him, fall into it, let him do it, be trust. That's great. I love that you just said that.
It's again, it's something very newly discovered in trusting that statement. But I will say that trusting that statement has got us to where we are now, and it's going to continue to get us where we're going. And we can't do anything without it. Every decision that we make is coupled with prayer, because we're in a field we don't know anything about.
I'm terrified right now.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to go, and I don't know who to talk to. But again, every step of the way, there has been invitation after invitation after invitation of connection, and it is all working out. And so the best thing I can do is just get out the way, and let this thing go and steer the ship as I'm told. That's great.
I love that. What better note to end on? I mean, that's just that's it. So where can everybody go to follow, to support, to find the product?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram at Drink Renewal Rain. You can find us on X at Renewal Rain, YouTube at Renewal Rain, Facebook at Renewal Rain. Everywhere but Instagram is Renewal Rain, because the guy won't give it to us.
So what's the Instagram again? It's official or
the
something?
The Instagram is Drink Renewal Rain.
Yeah, that's fine.
We couldn't get Renewal Rain because somebody has it, and we've sent him messages, and he does not wanting to give it up. So that's unfortunate. But
Drink Renewal Rain luckily has a good ring to it. It's not like you have to do like drink_rain.
Yeah, true.
Stupid.
Also, too, the website. If you just type in Google Renewal Rain, everything for us is going to pop up right away. So that's an easy way too.
Sweet. I love it, dude. Thanks so much for coming on. I think this is really good. I think this is an important message, an important product. Would love to continue to show the brand, support the brand from a Creative Digest perspective, from an Ashton Francis perspective. Sure. I want to continue to support it and whatever we can do, whatever they can do to continue to support and get the message out there. If you like today's podcast, make sure that you follow the Spotify or the Apple Podcast, or really wherever you listen. Also, you can go to the YouTube channel and subscribe officially. And if you want to get bite-sized versions of all of this, you can go to the Instagram at the Creative Digest Podcast. That's all I have for today.
Awesome.
Let's go take some photos, eh?
Let's do it.